There we go. Welcome down, my friends and family. I am Jason, one of your cruise hosts. Very glad to have you with us for the first official all-access pass. Throughout your cruise, we'll be doing interviews with some of your very favorite stars from the Big Easy Cruise. And today is certainly no exception. We're starting off with a band who was so hot last night on stage and has been together for quite a time, so we thought they would be a fantastic interview to begin with. Do me a favor, please help me thank and welcome two of the original members of the Dirty Dozen Brass Band.
Thank you, thank you.
We are so glad to have you gentlemen with us.
We're glad to be here.
You're on. You're probably just not hot in the monitors. First question, right off the bat. We were talking a little bit backstage, and I want to make sure that folks get a chance to get to know you guys.
Yeah.
1977,
That's
you
right.
said, is when the whole thing began.
That was a very good year.
It was. Tell us a little bit about how what's the mindset? How do you form in 1977?
Well, prior to 1977, some of us were members of some of the other brass bands that were around at the time. There was the Olympia Brass Band, there was the Eureka Brass Band, the Onward, and there were some of the older brass bands. And there was a guy named Leroy Jones, started his own brass band, the Hurricane Brass Band. But then Leroy started having some success as an individual on his own, and so the Hurricane Brass Band disbanded, and something else got started called the Tornado Brass Band by the guy named
Lots of weather systems.
Lots of weather system. The guy named Darrell Adams, who's no longer with us, but anyway, he started a rehearsal effort called the Tornado Brass Band, and then for various reasons that dissipated, and then some of us got together, still wanting to rehearse, and that was really the idea, just to get together to rehearse, and then some gigs started happening. A guy named Benny Jones, who was a member of a social and pleasure club. I can't remember what the name of it was.
Social and Pleasure Club was called Dirty Dozen Social and Pleasure Club.
Right. And so
You can't remember what it was called. It's the name of your band. That's fine. I get it.
Well, no. Well, Benny was involved in several,
Yeah.
but the one that started
Got
to
it.
hire us was the Dirty Dozen.
Gotcha.
You know, and Social and Pleasure Club, not a building, an organization.
Understood.
And so we got in the habit of just rehearsing any night during the night because all of us were either in school and or working or whatever. We would start rehearsing 7, 8 o'clock at night, but the rehearsals would go sometime 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning.
Sure.
And it was an opportunity just for us to get together and play, and it continued. And then we found out who wanted to play, who wanted to rehearse, who was going to help develop some repertoire, and it ended up being us who became the Dirty Dozen Brass Band.
And, you know, we never really named ourselves the Dirty Dozen.
Right.
I mean, it came from the Social and Pleasure Club. People just start calling us the Dozen, then the Dirty Dozen, and we just kept the name, you know.
That's kind of a fresh name, though. I like that name,
Yeah.
Dirty
Yeah.
Dozen. That's
Yeah,
We're not that dirty, though, you know.
Well, everything's
sometimes.
Yeah. Yeah. You're in the music industry. That's a lie. We
Yeah,
both
you
know
know.
that's not true.
Sometimes.
And as you guys start to build a little bit of reputation and start to move around, when do you realize that the Dirty Dozen Brass Band is something that's going to break and be,
Well,
this is going to work?
The difference with our band is that we played music that they would normally play in clubs, like Night Train or Blue Monk, you know, the music of Charlie Parker, the music of Duke Ellington, you know. These-
But even
the
beyond
Kings.
that,
Michael
James
Jackson,
Brown,
yeah,
Michael
all of that.
Jackson, Aretha Franklin, Marvin Gaye,
Everybody.
whatever. We would really just rehearsing because at the time we were getting it started, disco was king.
Yeah.
So there
Yeah.
was no real place for wind instruments or instruments, period, other than, you know, electronic guitars and bass and
Sure.
you know, drum stuff. So anyway, it was an opportunity for us as wind players, horn players, just to have a chance to play. But we started getting hired to do picnics, parties, social events, political rallies, and all that. We were hired a lot of times to play. Since disco was king, but back then it wasn't digital, so the DJs had to take a break.
Yeah.
And we would show up at different clubs and functions to play on the breaks for the DJs, because they would actually spin.
Yeah,
you know,
they were doing the
records.
work back then.
And so when they would take a break, you know, it was a break, and we would show up to play, and then we started getting hired to play the party and DJ played the breaks. You know, so then we knew, kind of sort of knew
That was, yeah, you saw the wave coming, so to speak.
Yeah.
Well, you know, everything from, we used to say everything from birthdays to funerals.
I mean, everything in between, right? You
Yeah,
take
and you can't book, or you can book a
Yeah, you
funeral
can
in
book it.
advance. But if you know somebody's booking a funeral in
Anybody
advance,
want to book a gig? Just in case, you know.
get cash.
yeah, don't take the check. Don't take the check. That's fantastic. And we were chatting a little bit backstage, and you're talking about it now. Your sound as a band is unique, and I had read the quote musical gumbo.
Gumbo.
Back there,
Yeah, musical
because it really is a mix of so many things. How did you start to pioneer your sound, and what is unique to you?
What I think is like the way Curry Joseph plays the sousaphone. You don't, you know, sometimes people can't tell what it is. You know, it sounds like he's playing a bass, a real bass. You know, and then our instrumentation is different from most traditional brass bands. At the time we used 2 trumpets, trombone, tenor saxophone, and baritone saxophone. I don't use baritone saxophones in brass band.
Well, they do now. But at that
well,
time,
now everybody want a baritone. I wish they'd stop doing that. But you know,
but that is what like he mentioned, Kirk. That his style of playing is what makes a difference for us. Not to necessarily criticize how any of the other bands play or approach their music, but when Kirk plays, it sounds like a bass,
right?
You know, like a bass. And some of the other bands, when they're playing, I mean, it sometimes sounds like a college marching band, or it sounds like. But the fact that he's able to make his style of play is more in tune to what a bass, whether it's a electric bass or an acoustic bass, he's able to produce that kind of sound. So that makes a difference for us. And his interaction with the drums, with the rhythm section,
absolutely
makes it happen.
And do you ever expand to bring in other instruments to complement your sound and have a bigger sound?
There was a time when we had, we use guitar now, but there was a time we had guitar and piano.
Yeah, keyboards. But, it's the interesting thing about, I think one of the most interesting, when we first started, even just as a brass band, and we started getting gigs, we were playing other music other than brass band music.
Yeah.
And so the brains, the powers that be at the time, oh, y'all can't do that. You can't play Charlie Parker. You can't play James Brown. Don't do this, that. Now everybody, all the brass bands.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
And then they were saying, when we added had some changes in instrumentation, took a keyboard player on the road. You can't have a brass band with a keyboard player. You can't play. Now
all
they
the
all
rules.
do it.
Yeah.
And they say, you can't have a brass band with a guitar player. Now they all do it. Right. So, but it's all music, and it's what you do with it. A B flat is a B flat, but whatever instrument is playing and what you do with it is actually what makes, the sound of the band.
Mm-hmm. And so as you guys you're starting to get your breaks, now the DJs are giving you they're breaking for you and da-da-da. What was your first outside of New Orleans gig? What was your first tour or concert where you started seeing, oh, wow, this isn't just local. People want us outside of that? Doesn't have to be the first one, but earliest tours that come to mind.
Might have been 1983.
Even before that. Well, the first one that I can remember outside of New Orleans was we went to Chicago to play, Berwyn, which is just outside of Chicago.
Yep.
A guy named Bill Fitzgerald had a club there, Fitzgerald's, and they actually filmed a couple of movies there or whatever. But anyway, he brought us to Chicago to do that gig. And then we got a gig over in Holland and Groningen, and so then we kind of sort of really knew, at least my recollection, that it was going to work. We left New Orleans in might have been 84, to go up to New York, supposedly to do 2, 3, 4 gigs in New York. Then we're going to go over to Europe, work about 10, 12 days, and then head back to
Were
New
you
Orleans.
touring with people, or was it just you guys?
Well, at the time, a guy by the name of George Wein used to do a lot of festivals all over the world, and George Wein, Quentin Davis, decided to, hey, let's try this band in New York and then take them to Europe. So that whole trip was supposed to be about 2.5 weeks. Well, it ended up, once we played the clubs in New York, some festivals and a couple of clubs, went over to Europe and came back. We were supposed to go back to New Orleans, but by the time we got back to New York from Europe, there was a club, the Village Gate. Y'all, come do 2 weeks. And then we thought, okay, that's going to be it. After Village Gate, another club, I think Sweet Basil's, hey, do 2 weeks here. And then another club, Tramps, do another 2 weeks here, and back to the Village Gate. So anyway, what was supposed to be about a 2.5 week trip turned into 7 weeks, And then, still didn't know that, there was more to come.
Sure.
And I thought that I was taking a break for the summer, and I was going to go back to college and finish up. Well, I didn't go back until 20 years later.
But you made it back.
I made it back, but it just kept rolling.
Sure.
Then we ended up, didn't necessarily know what the infrastructure was going to be. Ended up being introduced to a booking agent, then a manager, and they don't
Getting deep
they
into
don't
the
get
business.
paid unless for us to get paid, they got to do their work, and then the work just kept coming. But even after the summer tour, got back, thought I was going to go to school. Then somebody called and said, hey, we got 3 or 4 weeks to California. Thought that was going to be it. Then somebody said, oh, we got some work for you in Germany. Come do. And it just really just kept rolling.
Yeah.
And I remember one time we would go to Europe and then we'd come home and we'd do all the conventions.
Yeah,
and all the riverboats.
Sure.
I mean, it's just like it never stopped.
Yeah.
Oh, by the way, I like to acknowledge the presence of 2 other Dirty Dozens that's in the room today. Trevory Huffborn, tenor saxophone.
New man.
And in the back, Julian Addison.
Where is it?
There he is
Hiding
back
back
there.
there.
Oh, he
Hiding
is
back
back
there.
there.
There he is
Yeah.
hiding back there.
That's our percussionist drummer extraordinaire.
Yeah.
And you guys also then started working with a lot of people too. You started
Yes.
getting in real demand.
Oh.
I'm assuming right around that time. Tell us about some of your favorite collaborations or artists you've worked with and or toured with.
Well, there were the Black Crowes and Widespread Panic and Dave Matthews.
Stuff you wouldn't necessarily immediately think of
right.
a brass band touring with.
But even before that, one of the musicians that took interest in Dirty Dozen was Dizzy Gillespie.
Oh.
Yeah.
He used to
Dizzy.
show up. We used to play a club called the Glass House, and back then in New Orleans they had the Fairmont hotels had the Blue Room, jazz rooms, different places around.
Yeah.
New Orleans, San Francisco, maybe they had one in New York and different places. But anyway, when Dizzy Gillespie would come to New Orleans, he'd come hang out at the Glass House. John Hendricks would come. Manhattan Transfer, different people would come, and we were blessed. The word was just spreading, about this new band, and then so we started being paired on concert circuit with those guys. Again, like I said, George Wein had a festival production. He had festivals all over the world, and then he started putting us, fitting us in where they could, and then it just happened.
Keeps going, yeah.
Even the great Fast Domino.
Oh yes.
Dave Bartholomew,
all the cats.
Y'all have Irma Thomas on the road.
Irma's here.
We've done a number of shows over the years with. Our music was as such we could fit in, and
Sure.
it was not a hard fit. They didn't have to just make a spot for us. They would get us on the show, and we would do our thing, and people would remember that we were there.
Well, you said you were so diverse musically too that there's not a lot. I mean, some of the artists you just named. I mean, there's not a lot you couldn't kind of work around and work with.
Roger worked with Fats.
Oh, did
About
you?
40 years.
40 years.
Oh,
and then
wow.
40 years. And then started hanging out with the Dirty Dozen.
Al Little Fats Jackson's in the back. I'm assuming that's,
right.
where that woo
That's
came
right.
from.
Fats ain't dead. He's still
Yeah, he's
here.
right there.
And we met his wife.
That's right. That's right.
That's the inside joke.
I got it a minute ago.
Fast Domino had a record, and that's that's I remember that. But guess what? It wasn't Fast Domino. Reggie Hall, his brother-in-law, said, "Fats, that's not you." Yeah, that's me. He said, "No, that's not you, Fats." It was Al.
Al Lil Fats. Yeah.
And that's a true testament and compliment to Al, who's
Yeah,
playing
it
for
is.
us all week
No doubt
long.
about
So,
it. Now, just speaking about Al Lil Fats, that, you know, when I first, I do other stuff.
Yes, sir.
I book stuff, and then I was Fats had passed away, so I booked stuff for Jazz Fest and some other things. And so we were going to put on a Fats Domino tribute show, and then I had heard about Al Lil Fats, and then you know, Quentin, some of the other guys said, well, we got, you know, who can we get to play the thing? Somebody suggested that I go check out Al Lil Fats, and when I went back and told him, I said, Fats ain't dead. He's playing.
That's the highest compliment.
He's playing piano. You know, he's working.
Music live on.
So that's the highest compliment.
That's the truth. That's the truth.
That's right.
He's playing all week long as well, so you can catch Al all around the ship. Do you have any dates that you think back on that are the most memorable for you? Whether it was playing with a star, someone that you always idolized, or something crazy that happened at the time, or are there any dates that you think back on that just light you up?
I don't know if I even want to talk about that.
The dirty.
We got some stories.
I'm sure we do.
Can't write the book. But playing, for me, playing in New Orleans at a place called the Glass House. It was a small black club, probably could seat comfortably about 20 people.
Intimate.
We used to do 100,
buddy.
more than 100, 120 people in that small space. And that gig, it was a Monday night gig, and it just lasted for years and years and years until we just, once things started getting better for us, we just couldn't make it back on Monday night because, you know, we were starting to gain some notoriety. But for me, playing in New Orleans, you know, at the Glass House was the epitome of, you know, being able to perform in front of a live club.
Yeah, the Glass House was.
I feel like there's more to that, right? Yeah.
No, even with Darrell's, you know, before the Glass
before,
House,
yeah.
Darrell's was where the Indians used to have their rehearsals and whatnot, and that was a spot too, you know.
When looking back on it now, or even taking into account now the tours you do and who you tour with and where you go, I love this question for different artists. Do you prefer to take financial out of it, not including financial, just purely audience and performance experience? Do you prefer a big room with tons of people, or do you like small, tight, and intimate rooms where, to your point, like the Glass House?
For me, it really don't matter. I like it all.
Fair enough.
For me, the challenge for me is to be able to see if I can gain control of the crowd.
Yes.
Because I truly enjoy trying to figure out what it's going to take to get the audience that's present at the time. And one time we did a show, I think it was Chicago Fest or something like that, and it was estimated to be a crowd of maybe 80,000 people. And then for me, the challenge was to try and figure out, not figure out ahead of time, but figure out in live time as the show is happening, you know, what is it going to take to actually get, you know, the mass in control. And at the same time, I also enjoy, even if it's a small, you know, a small intimate setting, you know, less than 100 people or less than 50 people, whatever it's going to take to get those people that are in attendance, you know, what it's going to take, what song, what might we be able to play or sing or do whatever just to get them.
I love that question because I love to ask that question because it is interesting to exactly your point. Some folks like a really big room because it's not as, artists will say often, and please disagree or agree, artists will say sometimes a huge crowd isn't as difficult because it's not as intimate, and I can't make eye contact with you and see you making a face or making a sound, or it's just a big mob of folks, and you're just performing for the whole thing. When it gets small and intimate, you're looking at people, and they're looking right back at you.
Well, that's the challenge. At least I enjoy that. Some people don't like going out to purchase a new car because they're afraid of the negotiation. And well, I like that.
You're looking for a little back and forth, a little confrontation.
I do. So being able to connect with a large crowd, whether it's a large club, a large concert, or outdoor festival, whatever, there's always something that you can focus on because as a performer, you have to be comfortable too. You know, you can't be afraid of the moment. So I enjoy getting it started and figuring it out as it's happening.
And as you perform, I'm going to use a horrible phrase, as you performed for years and years, and as you've gone longer, because you're approaching now, I mean, at 77, that's pushing close to 50 years as a band, right?
Yeah.
I mean, if I'm not mistaken.
We're getting them at 46.
At 46. Has your sound changed?
I would say so, because we have new members in the band, so it's a totally different sound. From
Is it an intentional change, or just because as you change in and out members, you naturally
people
change?
come and they go,
Life happens.
Adaptation.
Life happens. And then over the years, we went from 77 to about 90, 91, 92, without necessarily having to make, a change. Then we were confronted with having to make a change, and we made a change, found some new people, plugged them in. I mean, like right now, Roger just mentioned, Travari's on tenor saxophone, and then Julian Addison is back there. Steve Walker's on trombone, and they're certainly younger than we are. You know.
That's right.
Why is he laughing?
He like to hear that.
And the truth is, my oldest daughter is. He's younger than my oldest daughter. My oldest daughter is 34, and he's, younger than my oldest daughter. Yeah. But the pleasure for me really is to see the younger guys, so to speak, bring their energy, to the stage, and that's a benefit too. Put your fingers in your ear.
Earmuffs.
It's good to have the younger energy come up and just take
Sure.
over, take the lead. Then that way I don't have to expend as much.
Yeah, you got a lot of energy, I tell you. Julian too.
And the auto workers just went on strike because they wanted more money, more money. This ain't got nothing to do with that. He just continue giving out your energy. I mean, the same thing, but even Julian on drums. I mean, that's a whole nother dynamic from the drummers that we started out. It's just so full of energy. It's just a pleasure to see that happen every night.
And please, did you have? Go ahead.
No, I was
as
agree
you
what he was saying. Yeah.
As you adapt, as the number of members adapts in and out, and as new talent comes in. What's the audition process like to bring in new talent? Because, I mean, you have to be a pretty tight band, and it's it has to be a process.
When Travari came in the band, I mean, we used to play in Delphio Marcella's big band, and I was really impressed the way he played. I mean, because he's an extraordinary musician. So when Kevin Harris had to leave, I thought about Travari, and he kind of reminded me of Kevin a little bit because of his size,
He said his girth.
Big, beefed up guy, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Plus, he's an incredible musician.
Yeah.
Oh, I thought you were going to say he fit the costumes, and that's how he got the gig. I thought that's what this boiled down to.
No, but even with the...
He's an incredible saxophone. I love playing with him every night. I mean, it's really a challenge to try to keep up with him.
Yeah. And then even with Julian on
also.
drums, when the band first started out, we had snare drum, bass drum, Lionel Baptiste Jr. and Janelle Shalai Marshall. They had worked together so long as a snare drum and bass, and they even for what they were doing, they didn't just play snare drum. They added other percussions, and cymbals and stuff to their performance. And then when they had to leave, we moved on to a guy named Terrence Higgins, who now works all over with everybody. But then when Terrence had to leave, we were looking for a drummer, and I went to a neighborhood festival to check out something that I was supposed to be booking for Jazz Fest or whatever. I was going to see a Cuban percussionist, Alexi Marti, and then I heard Julian Addison on stage playing, and after they finished, I went up to him and said, "Hey, look, when you have some time, give Roger a call, because we're looking for somebody, and we'll put him in touch, and he brings his energy each and every night."
So you basically have your eyes on the musicians, certainly around your area at all times.
You want to surround yourself with
the
best of the best. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Have you had open calls before? Have you ever come to a point where you just couldn't find somebody, so you open called?
Well, when we went through the original change. There came a time when Kirk and his brother had to leave. Kirk on sousaphone and his brother Charles playing trombone, and then we were going through some changes also with at some point with the drums. Well, when Kirk and Charles had to leave, and we had to find some guys. It was just before we were getting ready to go on a long Southeast Asian tour, and because we had been traveling so long, we really weren't in touch with what was happening with the other musicians and brass band players. And when we put the word out that we needed a trombonist and a sousaphone player, well, two guys, Revert Andrews on trombone and Keith Anderson on sousaphone, they knew all the music. We really weren't aware that other people were playing, our music, and we were able to plug them in, and they came along. Then when it came time to make the change on drums, Terrence was leaving, and we needed a drummer. I accidentally ran across Julian, but we had also had auditioned some other drummers, that just didn't fit the bill.
Sure.
And so, even the sousaphone player, we had
Julius McKee. Yeah. I mean, so there were other musicians coming up, through the ranks, so to speak, that were playing Dirty Dozen, music. Weren't aware of it until we had to go and check it out.
And you guys are on, shifting gears slightly. We were just talking backstage, and you're touring with Little Feat. Is that a
that was one?
That was one you did.
Yeah.
Are you doing tours, or are you doing mostly one-off gigs
we
with
did a tour with them of maybe 10, 12 dates. We did a Black Crowes tour in the 90s, and even before the tour came up, our manager at the time, Mike Kappas had John Lee Hooker, he had Robert Cray, he had a sturdy roster, and he approached. At the time, I used to take care of the business for the Dirty Dozen, and he said, "Hey, you all should take this tour with the Black Crowes and so and so." And I kept saying, "Well, no, we had bookings for 6 or 7 months," and I said, "No, we'll be all right," because we were working a lot, and I just couldn't see, adding more. So then time passed, and it came around again. It was a 90-something, 94, 95, whatever. So it came around again. He said, "Why don't you just try it?" So we agreed to do it for 6 weeks. So we had to get rid of all the stuff that we already had, agreed to do it with them for 6 weeks. And after the third night, it started in the Midwest, but after the third night, they came to us and said, "Hey, we appreciate if y'all could do the other half of the tour." So that was another 6 weeks. So that tour immediately went for 3 months.
Yeah.
And then after that, it was getting to offers to do tours with other people. So the stint we did with Little Feat, I think that lasted about 2.5 weeks, 3 weeks, or something like that. So we get, we're in year number 46, but we're still relevant. We're still in the mix.
Absolutely. And what is a normal year of bookings like? How many dates are you guys doing a year still, like in?
I would think, well, at its peak, it was probably close to 200 shows.
That's a lot of shows.
Yeah, tell me. That's a lot of shows.
People don't always recognize that it's not just the show date. It's the travel date. It's the load in. It's the load out. There's a lot that goes into dates. So
yeah,
200 may not sound like an incredible amount, but in the music industry, that is a lot of dates.
And even with the dates themselves, when my kids were younger, my oldest at the time was maybe in kindergarten, first grade or whatever, and the kids have tell what your parents do for a living or whatever. My daughter actually thought I worked at the airport.
His daddy's always going to the airport. Oh, that's beautiful and sad at the same time.
She really thought that I worked at the airport because they were either dropping me off or picking
you up. Yeah.
At the airport. But even now, I think, coming out of the pandemic, we worked a lot, and coming out of the pandemic, we probably did about 150 shows.
That is a load of dates.
Yeah. So
that is a lot of dates.
Yeah.
So I got to ask the obvious front-loaded question. When you got the call and heard that there's going to be a big Easy cruise, what What'd you
Oh,
think?
yeah.
Yeah, go ahead and take it,
Yeah.
Roger. What'd you think?
Couldn't wait to do it.
Couldn't wait to do it?
Couldn't wait to do it.
Oh, I love that.
I'm enjoying myself. I'm really having a good time. Last night was killer.
Yeah, but yeah, you guys took the
It's on
stage like
fire.
storm last night. That was
And that show started out not full.
Yeah.
You know, and again, everybody wants, you know, the prime spot or whatever the prime spot is. But I think, you know, we've learned over the years, whatever spot you have, whatever time you go on, those who want to hear you, they're going to show up.
Absolutely.
And whoever shows up, it's our job to entertain whoever's there, whether it's 2, 10, 100,000. I'm gonna get paid no matter what.
the check will clear. I
check is
promise.
gonna clear.
I promise the check will clear, gentlemen.
and so it's my responsibility. If only 2 people show up,
Yeah.
then I'm responsible to entertain those 2 people.
Yeah, you never who's in those two, right? You
Never know. And then by the time we finish, you know, it was pretty full. And then, you know, you making that comment, you never know who's in the crowd.
Yeah.
You have the gig that you have right now, so the one you need to be concerned about is the next gig.
Sure, yeah.
You know, so
You already booked this one.
got this one. Got
You
this
never
check.
know who's listening to you. I
Yeah.
tell the guys in the band, I said, man, you know, play like this is your last day on earth because you don't know who out there listening to you. Might, you know, you might want to offer you a little bit more money.
Yeah. Well, that's how you were just talking about. That's how you found, Julian, drummer, and so,
I
you
was
know,
going to check out.
you were hearing him just
Yeah.
at the show, and whether there was 2 or
That's right.
20,000, you know,
Yeah.
you were in that crowd. And one thing that I think that's interesting about festivals that, you know, in this cruise, in a lot of ways, we view it as a week-long festival, is people are playing multiple times in multiple places. So sometimes folks will look and be like, okay, well, Dirty Dozen Brass Band, well, they play 4 times. I can miss them there because I know I'm going to get them there or
Yeah.
there. So oftentimes the size of a crowd for an event in a festival isn't a testament to the popularity of an act
No.
ever.
Yeah.
It's
It
just
fluctuates.
the movement
Yeah.
of how people are setting up their week. What can people, last one and I will let you go here, what can people expect when they show up to a Dirty Dozen Brass Band show?
Well, you know, I always say this. We got music for your mind, your body, and your soul.
And apparently the front row could get pregnant at any time with that type of delivery. Good Lord.
Dirty Dozen Brass Band, huh?
Yes.
Yeah, man.
That's another book. But
Pull it together, Gregory. Come on now.
what to expect is I always expect that people are going to participate. You know, not that they might want to participate. People go out to have a good time.
Yes.
That is the truth. You know, if you just did not want to have a good time, you probably would have stayed at home. Maybe you could have a good time at home, you know, but you chose to come out. You bought a ticket. So I expect to be able to, bring a good time to you. So no matter how many people show up or whoever shows up, you're going to have a good time when you come to the Dirty Dozen show.
Live music is still one of the very few entertainment avenues, for lack of better terms, where the fourth wall gets broken. And if you've never heard the term the fourth wall, we mostly watch things through a screen. We don't interact, right? We watch TV, we watch movies, we're on our phones. There is a proverbial wall between us and the entertainment at all times. If you watch TV at home, it's very rare that you laugh out loud or you cheer and scream for something you see. But then when you go to live music, that fourth wall is gone. The entertainers are talking to you. You're responding to the energy in the music, and that's exactly what you're saying is,
Right.
you know, they are there for the folks come for a reason, and that's to be entertained. It's to have fun, and ideally they're clapping and cheering and singing along and having a good time. So
Yeah.
I could not agree more, and that's really our vision for this cruise was to create something where the fourth wall is broken, and you have access to the artist. You have access to all this fantastic music. So
Yeah, you guys doing a great job.
it's a good start. It's a good
it's a
start.
good start.
Well,
Now, actually, when this was coming together, I did envision this after being told about it and everything, that it was in many ways was going to be like Jazz Fest. Because I know a lot of people come, and probably, a lot of you are here. You come to Jazz Fest and you get the cubes, you get the, the schedule and, who's playing here, who's playing there. And along with, the cubes, that group may be playing just one time at Jazz Fest, but then they mix that and intermesh it with what else is going on in the city. So you might can't catch so and so here today on this stage, but I know they're playing somewhere else later on. That's what this feels like to me. New Orleans at sea.
And that's
It is.
testament. That is right down the middle of what we are trying to achieve, and it is fantastic, and I truly appreciate that you gentlemen came out to be a part of our very first one. I don't think it would be a fair representation of the Big Easy Cruise and New Orleans music if you weren't here. So on behalf of Star Vista, thank you so much for agreeing to come out.
All right.
And thanks for agreeing to come up and chat with me. Help me with a big round of applause for these two fantastic. We got Roger and Greg, initial and first standing members of the Dirty Dozen Brass Band.
All right.
Thank you so much for coming out, my friends. Have a great day. We'll see you out and about.
All right. And y'all heard him say that this is the first, so we'll be back.
We'll be back.